Have you ever left a place thinking it was just a chapter of your life, only to realize later that it never really left you? I did. I walked away from Singapore believing it was a closed story, a finished journey. I thought time would erase the memories, the rhythm, the quiet discipline of life there. But then came 2026, and something unexpected happened. Singapore didn't call me back with words or invitations. It pulled me back emotionally, through memories, through comparisons, through the realization that some places shape who you become long after you leave them. In 2026, as the world faces uncertainty, instability, and rapid change, Singapore stands out, not loudly, not aggressively, but with calm confidence. And that calm started haunting me. This video is not about tourism. It's not about luxury or tall buildings. It's about why Singapore stays with you emotionally. Why leaving it feels logical, but missing it feels personal. And why 2026 makes that emotional pull stronger than ever before. Let me tell you why I left Singapore and why, emotionally, I never really did. Point 1. Singapore's discipline quietly rewired my mind. When I first left Singapore, I believed discipline was something external, rules, fines, systems. But in 2026, I realized Singapore had quietly rewired my mindset. The discipline there isn't forced, it's absorbed. You don't obey the system, you become part of it. In Singapore, time matters. Cues are respected. Public spaces are shared responsibly. Work ethics are sharp but not chaotic. After leaving, I noticed how deeply this had shaped me. In other countries, disorder felt louder, noise felt heavier, inefficiency felt exhausting. That's when I understood Singapore had trained my brain for calm efficiency. By 2026, as many global cities struggle with mismanagement, protests, and breakdowns in civic order, Singapore feels emotionally comforting. Not because it's perfect, but because it functions. That functionality creates mental peace. You stop worrying about basic things and start focusing on growth. Emotionally, this matters. When your mind has tasted structured calm, chaos feels unbearable. Singapore gave me that calm without ever announcing it, and leaving it felt like losing a mental anchor. In 2026, that anchor feels more valuable than ever. Point 2. A city that respects silence in a noisy world. The world in 2026 is loud. Social media screams opinions, cities shout urgency, news runs on panic. But Singapore whispers stability. What I miss most isn't the skyline, it's the silence. Not emptiness, but controlled quiet. MRT stations where people coexist without chaos. Streets where order replaces anxiety. Even crowded places feel emotionally breathable. After leaving Singapore, I noticed how silence disappeared from my life. Noise became normal, stress became routine, and slowly, exhaustion followed. Singapore had given me emotional breathing space, and I didn't realize it until it was gone. In 2026, that silence feels priceless. Emotional health is no longer about luxury, it's about survival. Singapore's respect for personal space, rules, and civic behavior creates emotional safety. You don't feel watched, you feel protected. That's why Singapore pulls people back emotionally, not with excitement, but with relief. In a noisy world, silence becomes addictive. Point 3. Singapore's stability feels personal in 2026. Stability used to feel boring. In my younger years, I chased excitement, unpredictability, and movement. Singapore felt too controlled, too planned, so I left. But in 2026, stability feels intimate, almost emotional. As economies shake, currencies fluctuate, and geopolitics grow tense, Singapore stands firm. Not flashy, Not dramatic, just steady. That steadiness creates trust, and trust creates emotional attachment. When you've lived in a place where systems work, even during global uncertainty, you develop a quiet confidence. You carry it with you. And when the world feels unstable, your heart looks for familiarity. Singapore doesn't promise miracles, it promises continuity. And in 2026, continuity feels like comfort. That's why leaving Singapore feels logical, but missing it feels emotional. Point 4. Singapore redefined home without trying. Singapore never asked me to belong, and that's why I did. A city of cultures, languages, and identities, yet no one forces uniformity. You exist as you are. That quiet acceptance redefines the idea of home. Home isn't where you're from, it's where you're not questioned. After leaving, I realized how rare that feeling is. In many places, identity becomes negotiation. In Singapore, it becomes coexistence. By 2026, as identity politics intensify globally, Singapore's model feels emotionally mature. Not perfect, but balanced. And balance creates belonging. You don't miss Singapore loudly, you miss it quietly, like a place that understood you without asking questions. Point 5. Singapore taught me the future feels calm. The future is often shown as chaotic, fast, overwhelming, uncertain. But Singapore taught me something different. The future can feel calm. Smart systems, digital governance, urban planning, none of it feels invasive. It feels supportive. Life moves forward without emotional burnout. In 2026, as technology overwhelms many societies, Singapore integrates it gently. That gentleness is emotional intelligence at a national level. Leaving Singapore felt like stepping into a louder future. Remembering it feels like remembering a future done right. I left Singapore thinking I was moving forward, and maybe I was, but in 2026 I understand something deeper. Some places don't chase your attention, they earn your loyalty. Singapore didn't pull me back with nostalgia, it pulled me back with comparison, with realization, with the emotional truth that calm, stability, and dignity are rare and valuable. You don't miss Singapore because it's exciting, you miss it because it made life feel manageable, humane, predictable in the best way. Maybe I won't return physically, or maybe I will, but emotionally, Singapore never let me go. And if you've ever lived there, you already understand exactly what I mean.